Who are we? What are we? Why are we here? Think about space. Our solar system is surrounded in space. What is outside of that? The answer is more space, more solar systems, and always more space, infinity. This space or universal intelligence or universal subconscious mind or sea of tranquility or God or source or whatever term one chooses to use has no limits or boundaries. It is all there is. It is everything. It is an ever-changing energy force. The process of ever-changing, universal mind, the term we prefer becomes matter. Animal, vegetable, and mineral, in search of awareness of self or self-consciousness. We believe that there is consciousness in all matter, but self-consciousness begins with the amoeba, something which grows, feeds, and produces, the highest form of self-consciousness being man. This form has been granted the greatest degree of intelligence and therefore the greatest possibility for advancements in the evolutionary cycle, because for this physical lifespan we are created in the individual form. Man has been accustomed to thinking of himself as being separate from everybody else, and that he is the physical body, whereas a body is merely the structure that he has chosen for this particular life experience. We are all a part of the universal one, and anything which affects one affects all, whether we are aware of it or not. An experiment was done in Russia where they took a newly born litter of baby rabbits away from the mother, put them in a submarine, and went below the surface far out to sea. In the laboratory, the mother was being monitored by an EEG machine. The babies were then killed one at a time, and each time a baby died, there was a reaction in the mother which registered on the machine. Another test was done with a man and his pet dog, of which he was very fond of. They were put in separate rooms, with the man being monitored on the EEG machine. At intervals and without the man being consciously aware, the dog was given an electric prod. Each time there was a reaction registered on the machine. A good example of monism, oneness, is our mountains. Above the surface of the earth, there are individual, different heights and shapes, but below the surface, they are joined and are one. We could also use the example of the two of the Hawaiian islands. The island of Maui has a beautiful mountain, and the flatter land is blessed with lush green growth and fantastic flowers. It is a paradise. Next to it, jutting out of the same body of water, is a small island consisting only of a mound of barren rocks, with nothing at all growing on it. How totally unlike these two islands seem to be. Yet under the sea, they are joined. They are one. The millionaire in his mansion and the bum on Skid Row are one. We are all manifestations of the one source. Therefore, what we do to anyone else must by universal law affect us. When we steal from others, we also steal from ourselves, not in intangibles, but in integrity. When any life form suffers physical injury, there is an emotional reaction in every other living thing. We are sometimes aware of these emotions, as when an accident or sudden illness occurs to someone with whom we have close ties. This could be called ESP, but whatever it is called, it is certainly a feeling. This is very noticeable in twins, and particularly in identical twins. On the same principle, we can be aware of emotions in others, even though we do not witness a demonstration of their feelings. For instance, we can enter a room and immediately sense a tension, even though everything appears to be calm. When there has been a heated argument or violence, vibrations are emitted which remain in the room. We have all heard the expression, "the air was so thick you could cut a knife with it." On the other hand, you can enter a room where there appears to be utter confusion, and yet you sense a calm, soothing atmosphere. You can be sure that love and peace are the motivating forces in this home. You may find yourself next to a person who is a complete stranger to you, and immediately you feel uncomfortable, feel that you must move away. Other times you are automatically drawn to someone you do not know and feel comfortable as though you have been friends for years. From our emotions, we emit energy vibrations into the airwaves, vibrations which can be picked up by others. We are all broadcasting and receiving stations, and by the universal law of attraction, we receive on the same level as we broadcast. We can tune our receiving set into a higher, more positive wavelength by changing our way of thinking. In doing so, we will be drawn into a more progressive and successful level. What are we? We are manifestations of universal intelligence. Who are we? We are an individual expression of universal oneness. Why are we here? We are here to seek and ultimately attain complete self-awareness. We believe that universal mind, brackets God, is everywhere and in all things. I am a part of this universe, therefore this supreme being or universal power must be in me and I in it. And deep inside of me, I have the access to all knowledge of supreme intelligence. I am divine energy residing in a temporary physical house. You are no higher than your lowest thoughts, or lower than the peak of your desires. And all existence has no wonder wrought, to which ambition may yet not aspire. Oh man, there is no planet, sun or star could hold you, if you but only knew what you are. Anonymous. Reincarnation. In order for one to believe in reincarnation, one must, of course, believe there is life after death. We believe that life is eternal, that there is some form of reincarnation. We do not concur with a commonly accepted theory that we must return again and again until we do it right, so to speak. We do believe that we choose the time and place for our materialized physical appearance, and we also choose our parents, and that we have a definite purpose for being here. We have a particular mission to fulfill or a particular lesson to learn that can best be done in the physical form. We also believe that everyone has the innate qualities to lead a successful and happy life. If we are fulfilling the designated purpose as we planned, then we will be happy. What about babies who are born deformed mentally or physically? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It merely changes form. There is nothing new in the universe, therefore a baby is a reconstructed form of an existing energy, and is born into the physical world in whatever form can best serve the purpose, for whatever lesson is to be learned. The whole universe is energy and is conscious. Great motivating force being expanding consciousness. The search to know self. There is no gender in universal mind. These were created in the physical form in order to procreate, to accommodate more and more expression of universal intelligence. If we have lived as one sex, then we may choose to experience being the opposite sex at conception. The nucleus is both male and female, and one develops while the other remains dormant. If we successfully pass through this part of the evolution cycle in whatever condition we choose to appear, then the purpose for being here has been accomplished. If we choose to be born in perfect mental and physical condition, then this is the way we are meant to go through the span. But as said earlier, it is due to ignorance of universal law that we mess up our lives. This could cause us to backslide to our search for knowledge of self. And if our mistakes are not compensated for in this lifespan, then it must be done in some space or form. Nature will always maintain a balance. Each expression of universal intelligence, which is manifest in individual form, is here for a definite purpose. And every human being can take steps either forward or backwards to his evolution cycle according to his choice. Man and his mistakes. Every living thing is a manifestation of thought, in universal mind, and therefore springs from perfection. The only imperfect ideas originate in man. A healthy body results from healthy thinking. Disease from confused thinking. Man learns or should learn from his own mistakes. When man suffers from guilt or frustration or any such emotions as the result of past experience, he is hanging on to his mistakes, keeping them very much alive in thought, thus making them happen again. There is no such thing as failure, defeat, or evil unless it is accepted. All else is temporary obstructions which we sidestep on the way to our goal. Nothing is good or bad. It just is. It is man's interpretation which make good and evil. Nothing exists for the individual entity until he recognizes and accepts and therefore creates for himself from his own mind. Full choice open for man to experience ranges from ultimate good to ultimate evil. We are building a very hazardous, almost impossible road for the future when we plan our tomorrows with the failures of yesterday in mind. Time cannot be reversed. We cannot undo what is done. We must consider today as the first day of the rest of our life. We must take inventory in that storage bin called memory. Retain the assets and toss out the liabilities. In planning our goals, we must have faith that they will be realized, not just hope, for hope is merely wishing. Faith is knowing. We have been accustomed to using faith in the wrong way. We are reluctant to believe and have faith until we have seen a demonstration. In effectively using mental projection, faith must precede realization. It is very difficult for us to change our way of thinking, but it can be done with practice. What is reality? Reality is anything and everything which we create for ourselves. Man puts limits on a concept that is infinite. We prefer to believe that anything and everything is possible. For success and riches, we must think success and riches. People who have always had money will attract more money because they are accustomed to thinking in terms of luxury. A person who is accustomed to poverty will remain that way unless he can change his way of thinking. Even if the poor person, for any reason, comes into wealth, he will probably end up broke again because his mental magnet is aimed in that direction. We get what we expect. For expectations are deeply rooted in beliefs. For example, black magic or voodoo is effective only because there is belief in it. Victims are self-made. The energy of black magic can work only when the vehicle to which it is aimed is open and receptive. We believe that when thoughts of burglary or any crime originate in one source, the crime is then drawn, as by a magnet, to the source of fear of robbery or physical harm. We know of homes where the doors are never locked, yet no unwanted visitors ever enter. On the other hand, there are places where all sorts of locks, bolts, etc. are used, but there are still frequent burglaries. It is possible to create a mental protective energy barrier where no negativity can get through to the body. The technique for creating this protective barrier is described in the meditations and is referred to as white light. Life and death. Just as we choose when to be born, so also do we choose when to die, or rather when to discard this physical abode, but not on the conscious level except in the case of suicide. Sudden death by accident happens to us because we choose to be at that particular place at that time. We use the familiar term accidents, although we do not believe that anything happens by accident. This life is the effect of cause in universal mind. For every cause, there are a number of probabilities, which are influenced by the lifestyle we consciously choose to live. But as with the scientists and spacecraft, there must be central control with direct communication. When we sleep, the physical body carries on its work of building new cells, repairing damage, and recharging the batteries. During this time of sleep, we are in contact with other dimensions of self. And because the conscious body is stilled, the subconscious has free rein in making decisions. The physical body can obtain rest and healing through meditation. But as so few people obtain maximum benefit from meditation, it is essential for the mental body to have these periods called sleep in order to reach the level of consciousness we refer to as dreaming. When a person is deprived of sleep for a long period of time, he will start to hallucinate and even become violent. In an early experiment in a sleep lab, while trying to determine what dreams are and why we dream, the experimenter would waken the person as soon as he detected REM, rapid eye movement, which accompanies dreaming. This usually resulted in a logy, irritable feeling in the subject, because he was not allowed to complete a dream during the whole night. We need constant direction from the subconscious level. When we ignore intuition, we often cause the two to operate at cross purposes, with the result that we feel low or depressed. We need to use all of the consciousness harmoniously in order to have balance and peace of mind. So our purpose for being here is predetermined, and the time for leaving this physical plane is also predetermined, based on the mission to be accomplished or the lesson to be learned. But because of the probabilities determined by the freedom of choice, the actions of the conscious mind must be constantly monitored by the subconscious through universal intelligence, and our departure could be determined accordingly. There is always some time in every person, in every life, when the person begins to sense this controlling force. Psychics and clairvoyants usually sense it at an early age. Some do not see it until they are leaving this plane. Sometimes this enlightenment is reflected in a very abrupt change in a person's lifestyle and attitudes. For example, an alcoholic who suddenly decided to quit drinking and through AA or some similar organization tries to influence other alcoholics to reform. Some criminals, after a long period of crime, who have been judged unmanageable and cannot be rehabilitated, will adopt a completely opposite philosophy. And many then try to rehabilitate other criminals to reform the youngest first and second offenders. This change cannot be prompted by an outside force. Something somewhere deep inside the individual has wrought the change. The subconscious self writes the script for the game of life, for the conscious self to enact. If we were good actors, we would listen more intently to our intuition, the prompter. We are multi-dimensional. The physical plane is not the only learning plane, but it appears to be the fastest and probably the most varied. We believe that it is possible for an entity to complete an evolution cycle without using the physical plane at all. We also believe that we coexist with other planes of consciousness, both occupying the same space, yet unaware of the existence of each other. If you do not believe that two things can occupy the same space, you might like to try an experiment with water, sand, and sugar or salt. Take a cup full to the brim with water, then pour in a handful of sand. The cup will overflow. But take the same amount of sugar or salt and pour it in to the cup full of water. What happens? The sugar or salt dissolves and finds room between the molecules of water. Proof that two or more elements can occupy the same space. We believe that this explains ghosts. The awareness is developed in some persons to the point that they are able to see these other energies or thought forms. You may say that these sightings are just illusions. It is possible that everything in our physical world is illusionary. We write our script for life and play the different parts so well that we make it appear very real and very believable. We take ourselves so seriously that we sometimes suffer extreme miseries in order to make our illusions real to us. There are those who are never more satisfied when they are miserable. Some like to or feel that they have to punish themselves for any real or imagined harm they have done to someone else. The guilt complex at work. How much do we actually know of reality? At one time, the earth was thought to be flat and the sun to revolve around the earth. We changed our thinking about this. How much of what we now believe to be true will sometimes be proven false. At one time, the 4-minute mile for runners was thought to be an impossibility. It is now quite common. Athletes are continually breaking world records in personal feats. This proves that limits are self-imposed. When it comes to the universe and the power of thought, we put limits on a concept that is infinite. We in Mind Awareness believe that nothing is impossible. The quote, "Faith moves mountains," could indeed be true. Dreams. Tests in dream labs show that we have one dream of varying lengths every 40 to 90 minutes of sleep. What we remember of those dreams usually comes in symbol form. The dream realm is one of thought, and the brain transforms these impressions into mental pictures, which are familiar to us. As a rule, we remember only the last dream we experienced just before awakening. To understand our dreams, we must understand the meanings of our symbols. We believe that each person's symbols are unique, therefore no one can interpret the meaning of dreams for someone else. Sometimes dreams have an urgent message, such as a warning of a fire or an accident. These dreams are recalled factually and quite vividly. We could have a great insight into our future, what direction to go and what action to take, if we could know the meaning and then follow the direction of our dreams. In order to understand dreams, we need to keep a record and study them. It is a good idea to keep a pad and pencil or a tape recorder at the bedside, and immediately upon awakening, register all dreams you recall, for unless they are intense, they are soon forgotten. Then note what happens during the day or the following days. See if there is a trend, a connection between the dreams and the events. For example, one member of our family reports a recurring dream that she has and what she has determined the meaning to be. The dream is of driving a car and having the brakes fail. The car is always moving towards a group of people or a precipice or down a steep hill or towards some other potential danger. She always awakens before the car comes in contact with any object, but she feels very shaken. On examining her activity, she finds that she is speeding along some plan or project without considering contributing factors. She realizes that she must slow down, readjust, and possibly change direction a bit. So if you have recurring dreams, it might be well to analyze your activities, see if you can interpret the symbols, and possibly make some predictions for the future. There is a technique for controlling dreams, or for dreaming to order. Before you go to sleep, say to yourself mentally, I will remember my dreams, and I will know what they mean. Now, if this does not work the first night, or the second, or even for a week, do not give up. Remember, you have lived a good many years not bothering with the workings of the subconscious. So it may take quite a bit of prodding in order to get the desired results now. Those who have worked with this technique will say it is most interesting and well worth the time and effort. Programming the subconscious mind. We feed suggestions to the subconscious and program it as we would a computer. And like a computer, it will accept and project only what it has been programmed for. We strive to be consciously aware of our thoughts, to reject all negative ones and to replace them with the positive. But we sometimes catch ourselves deep in negative thought, and then we wonder how much negativity we have inadvertently fed to our mental computer, or how much of other people's negative suggestions we have allowed to slip through. We can be assured that if we consistently practice positive thinking, we are building an increasingly larger protective and discriminating energy force to protect the subconscious from the unwanted material. The more we reinforce with positive thought, the wider and stronger the energy force field becomes, and the better able the subconscious is to ward off negative impact from the field of random thought. As time goes on, we find that positive thinking becomes a well-established habit, and that negativity from ourselves and from others is becoming easier and easier to repel. The following diagram illustrates how this energy force field built up and maintained by our positive thinking automatically filters random thoughts, rejecting the negative ones and allowing the positive ones to enter the subconscious. We believe that this same energy, when misused, can be detrimental, as all manifestations is created in the exact image of the thought process of each individual mind. When our mental process is geared to expect the worst, the function of the energy field is reversed, and the positive is rejected and the negative admitted.